Let the magic begin.
Is it loading?
I see you.
Yay! It worked. So we're live.
Let the magic begin. See how it's delayed?
Yep. Great. Does the sound okay?
You sound good.
Okay, perfect. We've got about 1 more minute and we'll get started. Thank you guys for joining. Hey, Alan. Yay, I see people.
Robert.
Yay.
Kat.
Hey, everyone.
Ashley.
Hey, Ashley. Oh, I see Marty and Robert. Hey, guys.
Donna. Kelly. Krista.
Hey, Donna. Kelly, Krista.
Yay, we're live.
I know. This is so exciting.
Jennifer Hammond.
Hey, Jennifer.
David Barron.
Great. Hey, David. Thank you guys for joining us. Sorry about earlier. We'll give another minute for some people to jump on.
Hey, beautiful Amber.
Oh, hey.
From Karen Odell.
Oh, of course, Karen. Hey, Karen.
You've got me all sweaty.
What a crunch, to get to 4 o'clock and be live. I'm so excited this finally worked.
James and Courtney and Barbie.
Great. Hey, guys. Awesome. There we go. Great. I guess it's 4:01. We're good to get started, Jess?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, great. Hello and welcome to Keune Academy Live. Thank you guys so much for joining us at 4 o'clock. We send our apologies about 1 o'clock. Unfortunately, Facebook was not having it at 1 o'clock, so we are here at 4, and we're going to talk about the blonde breakdown. We do this every day traditionally at 1 o'clock. Different artists, different topics, so we encourage you to join in every single day because we have new great information for you. Hopefully we're keeping you inspired and keeping you motivated at home. And I know for us, you're doing the same thing. So it was so nice to actually get up, get dressed, and put makeup and hair on. And I even cleaned my house for you guys yesterday, even though that you can't see it. But we are live from Richmond, Virginia today, which is where I live in my at-home studio. So welcome. We've got a great program for you today. We're going to be talking about blondes and how to get from the time they walk in the door to the time that they leave. So thank you guys for your comments that you've been sending in. We've been taking those comments about what you want to see and creating courses based on that. So all the programs that you'll see this week are all from what you guys have wanted to see. So we've got blondes today. Dallin will be back tomorrow with Finish It. So he'll be doing some finishing looks. On Wednesday, we have Courtney Von Berg with Block It, so block coloring techniques. Thursday, we've got Jessica Bartolucci that you're not going to want to miss with Express Updos. And then Friday, tune back in with Gareth Palmer because he will be showing you another haircut, but unleashing texture with curly hair, how to cut curly hair. So we've got a great lineup for you, so thank you again for joining us. In an effort to make this run as smoothly and effortlessly as possible, even though that wasn't the case earlier. But I've got our Vice President of Education and Shows on speakerphone, Miss Jessica Mills. So everybody say hi, including you, Jess.
Hi!
So I don't know if you heard her voice pop up last week or saw her name in the comments, but she's here to help guide us on any questions that you have or comments that you have, because it's really hard to do this and read at the same time. So she has been a huge help for all of us in just making this run as smoothly as possible and helping you guys stay as engaged as possible. So thank you for that, Jessica. We really appreciate it. So with that being said, let's talk about blondes. So the blonde breakdown. You guys know as well as I do that we could talk about blondes for not only an hour, but a day, if not a week. So I picked some of the key things that I thought would be most beneficial for you guys heading back into the salon. And I know that things aren't going to be quite the same when we get back as what they were when we left. So I want to first start talking about the consultation and how that may shift after this is all done and over. So we're still going to be talking about whether our blondes want to be cool blondes or warm blondes, or if we want their highlights to whisper, talk, or shout. We're still going to have those conversations, but I think how conversations are going to change is more in the personal relationship and how it affects their appointments and what we're doing behind the chair. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how asking open-ended questions can really get our guests involved in having a conversation with us to get to the best end result for them and set us up for success. So the first thing is, and you guys know as well as I do, I think the first question we should ask is, what have you done to your hair since I saw you last? And hopefully that answer is nothing. But in case it's not, we want to make sure that we are setting ourselves up for success by the time we get in and start working on that client and start like making product choices for that client. And I think at this time, it's a time that we show that we support them if they had to do something, and realize that it's not a personal thing if they did decide to color their hair in between. Everybody's situation is slightly different. So I think if we support them and know that we have their back as long as they're open and honest with us during that conversation, I think that could be a really big game changer. The second part of the consultation that I think it's important is kind of a twofold. And the first question is, what do you love about your hair? And what's one thing that you would change about your hair? So what do you love about your hair and what's one thing that you would change? The first part of that question is huge. What do you love about your hair? I think now more importantly, because a lot of our clients are going to be coming back in and feeling bad about themselves and not feeling pretty. So what do you love about their hair encourages to be not only positive, but it gives them an opportunity to celebrate something about themselves, which might not be an easy thing for some of them. So I know for me, I've already talked to a few of my clients that have discovered that they like their naturally curly hair during quarantine because they've never allowed their hair to be curly in a long time. So they're celebrating the fact that like, hey, styling is somewhat easier now. For some of our clients, they may find that they like that their roots are darker now. As you can tell, I don't know that I'm celebrating mine, but some clients may find that they are enjoying having a little bit of a darker base. So giving them an opportunity to celebrate that is a great thing. Now, the second part of that is, what's one thing that you would change about your hair? This is a question that offers an opportunity for money. And money is going to be huge for all of us when we get back into the salon. We want to make more of it. We've missed out on a lot of it. So what would you change about your hair can either be answered with a service or a product. So it can either be answered with a service or a product. Think about it. I don't like how my hair doesn't have enough volume. Cool, well, if we do highlights and I got a great styling product called Root Volumizer, both of those things will give you lift and volume. I don't like how frizzy my hair is. So if your hair is too frizzy, we can solve that with a product option. So again, we've got options for both things, either service-wise or product-wise. But if we're not asking a question to solve a problem, we're missing out on an opportunity to either provide a service or provide a product. So what do you love about your hair and what's one thing that you would change about your hair? The third thing that I would add into consultations heading back into the salon is, has your beauty budget changed since I saw you last? So has your beauty budget changed since I saw you last? We all know somebody at least has been probably laid off, or hopefully not has lost a job, but we want to be able to deliver the service that our guests are still wanting, still make them feel pretty without breaking the bank for them. So I think it's important that we discuss, has their finance changed? Can they still afford the hair color that they love and the maintenance that they've been receiving for the past, a couple months or whatever it was before all this happened? Because the second part of that is costs are going to change for them in that first visit back. A lot of our clients have probably missed an appointment. Their roots are longer, which means more product, which means more time. So that first initial visit back into the salon might cost them a little bit more just because it's taking more time and more product. So I think it's important that we talk about cost with them during that consultation as well. So hopefully those were a few things that you find beneficial that you can add into your consultations. I know for me, I try and keep things as open and honest as possible in that consultation just to set everyone up for success. So hopefully that was beneficial. Jess, do we have any questions so far?
No, they're loving your consultation tips.
Great, thanks. We all know that that's what sets us up for success, and that allows us to do what we need to do behind the scenes. So I look at consultation as like the front of the house, and then everything else is up to us in the back, and what happens in the dispensary, and what happens during like what techniques we pick. That's based off of like our professionalism. The rest of it allows us to do what we need to do inside of that. So today what we're gonna do is I wanna share a few quick and easy techniques with you. Again, we know time is money when we get back into the salon. So quick, easy, effective lightening techniques. And during those techniques, I'm gonna share with you a few different products that we have at Keune. Because if you've been with Keune for a little bit or a long time, you know that we have a lot of different lightening options. And sometimes it's hard to know which one to pick and which one's gonna be best for maybe the hair that I'm working on or the texture. So I'm gonna walk you through a few of those techniques now. This is the end result that we're gonna achieve. So just a really nice, soft blonde, a lot of what our clients are asking for and a lot of what we're gonna continue to see when they do get back into the salon. We're gonna be at almost spring and definitely summertime, so we'll definitely be looking at lightening our clients. But we've got a brighter around the face, soft and blended through through the interior, and then lighter ends. So just something quick and easy, really soft and blended through the nape area. So when you pull the hair up, it's really blended and looks beautiful. So I'm gonna walk you through this technique. And I've already got Emma sectioned out for you. So what we're gonna do is take a center part from the front hairline the whole way back to the hairline at the nape. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, what happens if they don't have a center part? That's okay. The beauty of this is these two sections are gonna mirror each other. So depending if they part on the left or the right side, it's still gonna give them an equal amount of lightness or brightness around the face. If they have a really deep part on either side, you're gonna do the same technique, but just shift everything one way or the other. So they'll have a shallow side and a deep side. So you'll just do the exact same thing, just shift it to wherever their part is. So again,
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you give us a definition of shadow root?
Oh, a definition of shadow root?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So shadow root, it's called so many different things. I feel like there's shadow root, there's like a blurred base, there's so shadow root to me is anytime that there's more depth at the base that transitions into a lighter, brighter mid-shaft and ends. And a shadow root can be done either by building in the client's natural base or by adding it in between foils as you're going, or after the lightening service is completely done and doing like a root smudge where it's a deeper toner at the base and brighter, lighter toner through mid-shaft and ends. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Do you also have a mannequin preference?
Ooh, do I have a mannequin preference? I actually do. So for the past year, so what's my mannequin preference? For the past year, we've been using Hair Art, and this is Emma Light. So Hair Art's got a bunch of great mannequins, and depending on what you're trying to achieve as your end result, they have different starting levels. The Emma Lights I have found lift very similar to real, like a real client's hair. So you can get the levels of lift that you're expecting. It's really easy to work on. And like the benchmark that we just showed, they lift up beautifully so that you can tone them just like you would a normal client.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Is that it so far?
Uh-huh.
All right, great. All right, so we've got her sectioned out. So again, from center hairline on the front to center nape on the back. I then went ahead and created 2 triangle sections on both sides. So they're gonna extend from about 1 inch behind the front hairline. That's gonna be a diagonal back. And it's gonna come to a point at about the parietal ridge on both sides. And then towards the back, we're gonna cut back up to right below the crown area. Now, if they have a really expressive crown, go ahead and add that into the top triangle sections. So that way it kind of spills off altogether. So if they've got a crazy cowlick or anything like that, go ahead and add that into those top triangle sections. Now on the back, we just went ahead and divide these into 2 sections. So you have your left and your right across the back. So that's it. So the sectionings, I like to section everything out before I get started. To me, it's kind of like taping a room in before you start to paint. It just keeps everything clean and nice. And for me, like I like my clients to see that I kind of have things mapped out. And to me, like this being organized looks more expensive, and I like things to look more expensive. So I like to have everything pre-sectioned before I start. If you like to get in there and just kind of like paint as you go, that's cool too. Everyone's got their own process, which I think is really cool. So we are gonna start in the back on Emma, and we're gonna work from side to side as we're lightening. So that way when we're ready to rinse, everything can come down together. We are gonna start with our Freedom Blonde, and this is Keune's clay-based lightener. If you've used it and you've loved it, don't be afraid of sharing in the comments why. The reason I love it is because of the consistency of it. It has a nice fragrance to it, and I love the lift that I can achieve from it. So with Freedom Blonde, you can get up to 7 levels of lift, and it has its own dedicated developers. So the cool thing about our clay-based lightener is that it produces more of a skin, and you'll see it once I start to apply. It doesn't harden like a shell, so it's still pliable and movable. It's really easy to check if it's done or not and see if it's lightened enough. And it mixes really, really well.
I have a question for you, hon.
Yes.
How do you accommodate the sectioning for a heavy fringe?
Great question. How do you accommodate the sectioning for a heavy fringe? So typically fringes, we don't lighten a whole lot. Fringes usually stay a little bit more solid. It shows the shape and the form a lot better when they're solid. If you like a lightened fringe, you could definitely incorporate it into these front sections. If you're looking to keep the strength and not have them really lightened, I would start all of this back behind that and then just go in either with hand painting in the fringe or with like foils just placed exactly where you want the lightness to be. It's kind of a hard question to answer completely just because there's so many different styles of fringe. We have curtain fringe, we have a full like Betty Page bang. So depending on what kind of fringe we're talking about, I like to go in there and customize it for the client that's wearing it. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Yes, cool. Thank you for that question. One of the cool things about these bowls, if you guys have never seen them before, they are oblong, they have a handle, which is great if you're working with multiple bowls. The other thing that I love is this white pad on the front is a dry erase board. So if you're working with multiple either formulas or developers, you can go ahead and write that on there so that you don't get your colors confused. A lot of times I'll just number them so I know which order to go into. So instead of a product writing on here, I'll write the order. So if it's 1, 2, or 3. So just a cool little like hot tip for you guys. So we are gonna be balayaging in the back. I like to mix with one brush and then I kind of ditch this brush and get a clean one. With balayage, like clean and consistency is key. So I'm gonna get rid of that brush and grab a new fresh brush that we're gonna use.
So Amber.
Yes?
Is clay-based lighteners just a different texture than a non-clay-based lightener?
Great question. So are clay-based lighteners different textures than traditional lighteners? Or I'm gonna add another part onto this. Does something make them special? And yes, they do have a different texture, but there's also ingredients in them that make them special. So our clay-based lightener has the clay called kaolin in it, and you can actually find it in some of our clay products. The kaolin in the powder mixes with the sticky polymers in the developer. So like I said, Freedom Blonde has its own developer. So the polymers in the developer and the kaolin in the powder marry together and create the Freedom Fuse technology. And what that is a technology that allows the hair to be like encapsulated so that it gains so it keeps moisture and it keeps pliability so that you can continue to lighten over a lengthy period of time. So it does have a different texture, but there's also a reason that clay is built in there. So it does help with spreadability, and it helps when it's married with the sticky polymers to create that skin that I was talking about. Great question.
Mm-hmm. What volume are you using?
I am using a 40 volume with it. So a lot of our products, you'll see that 40 volume isn't always recommended. Freedom Blonde is one of the ones that we do recommend 40 volume if you're trying to achieve that up to 7 levels of lift. The lower developer that you'll use with Freedom Blonde, the less levels of lift you'll achieve. So with 40 volume, you can get up to 7 levels. With 30 volume, you can get up to 6 levels. And then it kind of decreases from there. So if you're looking for the most lift, which going from this to say a level 10 or a level 9, I'm definitely going to want to use 40 volume to get to the end result. Great questions. All right. So we are going to start in the nape area, and I'm going to take diagonal forward partings on both sides. So it's going to be higher in the interior, lower on the exterior. And this is going to encourage the lightness to move towards the face. So if I did the opposite way, I would encouraging it to move towards the center. And I know for a lot of our blondes, they like seeing that blonde right here around their face. So with that long hair, when they pull it forward, they want to see that long hair and that dark black hole that I call it. So I like to start higher in the center, lower towards the exterior, and really push that blonde towards the face. So we're going to be working from right side to left side with our Freedom Blonde. And for balayaging in the nape area, I like to tilt their head forward. It gives me a better angle for application. It just really opens it up. You guys see that? Great. And then again, I did switch the brush, so I have a nice clean brush that I'm applying. Notice that I've got product just towards the top of my brush, and I haven't overloaded it with product. The key is, again, keeping this really clean so I get a clean application. So knowing that I want more light on the exterior, I want to start painting up higher here and lower towards the interior. So I'm going to start a sweeping motion. I've got my fingers pinched down where I want to start saturating mid-length and ends. I'm going to work from the inside to the outside. I'll keep reloading my brush when I need more product versus putting more product on my brush. And continue to sweep that lightener down towards my fingers. And then brush up if I want to create more softness and more of a diffused look. So painting up will soften or diffuse that line at the top. Now, a lot of times with balayage, if you're not getting the lift that you're wanting, sometimes foils are going to be best to get the maximum amount of lighting, but saturation is also key in this as well. So I will go over it a couple times just to maximize the saturation if I'm looking for an overall lighter and brighter end result. Can you see that? Perfect.
Yeah, looks great.
Awesome. And then once I'm happy with up here, I'll get down to where my fingers are pinched. And let me tilt the camera down for you guys.
Just a little bit, yeah.
There we go. So once I get down to where I'm pinched, I'm going to keep working that product on the surface down until I can't pinch anymore. And then at that point, so that I don't have to keep wiping my hands or cleaning my gloves, I'm going to switch it to the back of my hand and continue to paint down through the ends.
Amber, can Freedom Bond be placed in foils, or is it best just for balayage?
Ooh, a great question. So can Freedom Blonde be placed in foils, or is it best just for balayage? It's best when used out. So the whole idea of Freedom Blonde is to really free you up from having to use foils or wraps or like cellophanes or mesh or anything like that. So ideally, like, you can just leave it out like this. If you wanted to lay a foil on top of it or underneath it, just for added protection, maybe you're not like super confident in it yet, you can absolutely do that, but it is designed for balayage effect. So to actually foil it into the hair, it's really not necessary. We have other lighteners for that, but a little hot tip, it is great if you have like some baby hairs that you're really trying to like hold down. Freedom Blonde's great because it does have that little tackiness to it. So great questions.
Excellent. Do you saturate all the way through the other side of the section, or just fully saturate the top?
Great question. So do I saturate the whole way through? Let me raise you guys back up again. So do I saturate the whole way through or just the top? So traditional balayage is surface painting. So I don't usually saturate through up here. So when I flip this section up, you'll notice that there's no product underneath it. The reason that balayage is so cool is that it's almost more of a 3D effect. So if you want something saturated the whole way through, foil still might be your best bet. With balayage, I like to keep it surface at like the root and then the mid shaft. And if you're looking for a lighter, brighter end result, you can saturate through down through mid-length and ends. Great.
Awesome.
Thank you for that question.
And, yep, I have another one for you. Why do diagonal forwards in the back? Is it to encourage lightness towards the front?
Great question. So the reason diagonal forwards work to bring lightness towards the front, and I will share something that a good friend of mine shared with me many years ago, is if you think about this line and I was to place the marble at the top of it, the direction that marble would roll is the direction the light would move. And the same would take place if I was using color also. So if I was taking diagonal sections in a block technique, whichever way that line is moving or whichever way that marble would roll, that's what's going to encourage the light to move in that direction. Did I answer the question?
Yes.
Great. Awesome. So I'm going to keep painting this section. It's going to mirror the section on the other side. So again, I want to make sure, let me tilt her so that I can see too. We want to make sure that it's lighter and brighter on the outside. So I'm painting up the whole way to the scalp on the outside. And then I'm softening the amount of natural that I'm leaving as I work towards the interior. Because traditionally on natural hair, like, it's going to be a little bit darker, a little bit deeper on the interior, lighter and brighter on the outside. And that's really just because of the sun and where it's lightened naturally. So to keep that really natural end result, you kind of almost have to mimic like a child's hair and what it would look like. And if they pull their hair up, they're going to have ribbons of light around their face and then a lot of depth or darkness on the interior. So again, I want to make sure this is really saturated so that I get the lift that I'm looking for. Once I'm happy with this, I'm going to slowly move my pinch and my product down till I get to the very end. And then I'm going to switch that hair to the back of my glove and then saturate down through mid-length and ends.
So Amber, if you wanted to see a bigger pop underneath, could you just freehand paint that?
If I wanted to see a bigger pop of light underneath, could I freehand paint that? Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, for sure. If you wanted more light down along the hairline, like if it was me and I had a client that was like, I like to pull my hair up all the time, I like light under here, I would have probably either went in with smaller balayage sections right on the nape line, or like just baby lights with foils tracing the nape line as well. So either one for more of a pop of color when they pulled it up. Yep.
Awesome. How thick are your sections? Sorry.
Oh no, great question. How thick are my sections? Traditionally, I start with about a 1 inch like section to the highest point on the interior. And then it comes down to like barely anything. So I'd be picking up, if this was a real client, you'd be picking up those baby hairs in the corner. So 1 inch on the interior, and then that comes down to meet the corner nape. Great questions. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. It's going to be another 1 inch section as I move up the back of the head. So again, higher on the interior, lower on the exterior. 1 inch deep. We're going to clip that up. Now I'm going to work, so I worked from right to left, and now I'm going to work left to right. When I get to this section, you'll start to notice that I have two different surface areas to paint. I have a top section and I have an outside section. So for me, again, going back to why this is such a three-dimensional technique, just balayage in general, is I have the option of painting this, and if you wanted lighter, brighter ends, you can saturate through mid-length and ends. So to really get that, again, lightness around her face, not only am I going to paint the top of this section, but after I'm done, I'm going to paint that section around her face as well. So,
Amber, are you doing vertical partings?
Am I doing vertical partings? They're diagonal forward partings. So higher on the interior, and then that moves down to a diagonal forward towards her ear. Thank you for that question. All right, so then we'll continue to saturate the top part of this section. Again, higher towards the face. And then I like to leave a little bit of depth in the interior. And then in order to paint this outside section, I need to move this one kind of out of the way and at an angle. So what I'm going to do is walk this section to the right while keeping a pinch on it. So I'm going to move it from my left hand to my right hand as I'm walking away with it, my left hand to my right hand as I'm walking away. And you can see that that exposes this whole side that, had we not painted, would be kind of a dark hole when it swung forward. So I'm going to reload my brush, and with a pinch on this hand, I'm going to come in from the side and kind of reaching over her and paint that outside corner so that I get that light when it swings back down towards her face. So I'm going to keep applying and saturate. And now I've got the top painted, the outside painted, and then again I can saturate this hair that's in my hand if I wanted to. But before I continue to apply, I'm going to walk it back down to kind of marry those two together. So I've got a light, bright, interior's a little bit deeper, and then that's going to work into saturating her length and ends. If I need to touch anything up, I can before I continue to work down. Switch it to the back of my hand and paint mid-length and ends. Now, if I wanted to saturate these, I would work with a paddle. A paddle gives me a little bit more stability to press and apply versus the back of my hand, which, you know, has some bumps and divots in it. So I would use a paddle just to keep things flat and firm. And then I would lay that down on top of the other section. And then continue to work diagonal forwards as we move up the head. How are we doing? Any questions so far? Jess? No? All right, so we're gonna continue to move. You would do the same thing as you worked up the head before switching to like your outside areas. Because of the time that we have today, and because I wanna share with you as many quick techniques as possible, I'm gonna move on to the side where we're gonna be doing some foil. So just to catch you up if you're joining, we did diagonal forward partings, about an inch deep. Balayaging with Freedom Blonde, just off of the base, just to keep a little bit of a deeper root at the base, and then painting from mid-length to ends. And then we would continue to work in diagonal forwards the whole way up the head until we reached where our triangle sections are.
I have a question for you. If the client wanted to deepen their base, do you like to pre-color the regrowth, or paint the regrowth first in balayage at the same time?
Ooh, good question. If my client wanted to deepen the base, do I color it first or lighten it and then deepen it? Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Say hi to Devin.
Hey,
It's
Devin. Thanks for the question. For me, it really depends on where I'm starting at and the canvas that's in my chair. So if they were starting at this and they wanted to go deeper than this, I would apply it all over first. I would take a wide tooth comb and comb that to kind of feather and diffuse it, and then go in balayage after that. If I did it, depending on how deep they wanted to go, if I waited till afterwards, I risk painting a lot of that dark onto what I just previously lightened. So again, I would go through first, especially if we're using semi-color to deepen it, paint it on first, comb it through to diffuse it, and then balayage. Great. Hopefully that answered the question.
Actually, she says no, paint the two colors at the same time.
Yes. Paint the two colors at the same time. So, as you're working, so would I go with a darker color on this section and balayage, and then a darker color on this section and balayage, and work both at the same time? You definitely could do that. I mean, that's, again, depending on what you want your desired end result to be. You could paint the base on. It's just getting it underneath this section and then balayaging on top of it. But if that's something that's been working, then keep on doing it. Everyone has a different process to get to the end result. That's how I kind of like to look at it. But
creative freedom.
That's right. That's right. All right. So we're going to move on to the front section, and we're going to be working with cream blonde. And cream blonde, this has just been always one of my favorites. A lot of the reason is just because I have a clientele that really supports cream blonde. This is going to be a gentle, consistent lift up to 7 levels. So a lot of my clients are on like the lighter side, so this works for me. If you're looking for something that either lifts a little bit quicker, or if you have clients with really coarse textured hair or ethnic hair, Magic Blonde might be one that you would go to, just because it does have a little bit more quickness to it. But for me, cream blonde has always just been that like really consistent thing that I've really enjoyed for the past almost 14 years now with Keune. So all of our powder lighteners are a mixing ratio of 1 to 1.5. So 1 part powder, 1.5 parts of developer. And for cream blonde, magic blonde, and power blonde, we recommend using our tinted developers with them, where with Freedom Blonde it had its own developer. So you would use tinted developer with this. Mixes really great. Again, I like to use a clean brush, so we're going to ditch this brush and get a clean one. And we're going to be doing some foils around Emma's face. So we're going to kind of switch gears. So with the section that we have already parted out, I like to actually split this one into 2. So if I try to get this all into a foil, as long as I'm not trying to get it close, you could do it. But because I want that brighter money piece in the front, I'm going to split this into 2 sections. So I'm going to take from the center hairline to about mid-recession. And I don't like to gauge it by the eyebrow, because I don't know about your eyebrows, but mine are drawn on, so sometimes it's hard to tell where the eyebrow arches and where like it should arch. But I like to look at the recession, because you can't really fake that. So if they have a really strong recession, meaning that they have a lot of density in here, you can really section it out anywhere. If they have a really weak hairline and weak recession area, I like to go above it so that I don't accentuate it with lightness. Anything that's lighter, even in an area that doesn't have a lot of density, is going to make that area almost disappear. So I actually want to keep more depth in that area if they don't have a lot of hair there. So I'm going to go ahead and section this little piece off, and we'll get to him in a minute. All right. So coming in, we're going to foil from top to bottom. I'll tilt her, there you go, towards you. I'm going to take fairly large weaves across the top. And that's going to be my first section. So you can see that they've got a fairly big stitch. little hair in between. This again is going to help us maximize our lightness around the face. I like to start applying my product down farther and then blend up in. So I like to start almost an inch to an inch and a half off of the scalp and then push that product that I just applied up towards the base. Now, because I want to leave her with a little bit of a shadow root, I'm going to brush up to probably about an inch off of the scalp. Again, keeping a nice deep base. And then I'm going to saturate down through length and ends. Now, not always do we have to saturate down through length and ends, but she's looking for an overall brighter end result. And some of her pieces still have some depth in there. So saturate down through. And then fold that section up and clip it away. The only reason that I really am applying or folding these two sides is because I still have to work in this area and this area. Traditionally, I don't always fold my sections just because it takes more time. I like to just kind of leave them open. Now, when we jump down to the neck section, I'm not going to leave any hair out in between. I'm going to come right below it and create another finer weave, almost more of a baby light right underneath that. So this is really going to accentuate the lightness again around her face and give me more opportunity to create that like really strong money piece. Again, I'm going to start down below and then take my brush vertical and blend up into the base area. Now on this section, her ends are mostly light. Let me turn. There we go. So you can see that this section is mostly light. There is this one darker piece in here. So what I could do is try and feather my brush down and get that one darker piece and not try and hit the lighter pieces. Or what I like to do is I'll come in and weave out. So I take my comb down farther, weave out that dark piece, grab a fresh foil, slide that in underneath, and now all that's exposed is my dark hair, and I don't have to worry about overlapping product onto previously lightened hair. So now I'm just catching the darker pieces while the lighter piece is underneath it. And then I'll grab that and fold it back up just like I would previously. And now this one I will leave hair out in between.
Amber, we have a question.
Yes.
What are your subsections within that section?
What are my subsections within the subsections? Great question. So right now I'm taking diagonal back partings from my foils, and my first section that I'm leaving out is actually going to come right now. So I have two back-to-back weaves followed by hair that I'm going to leave out. So this is going to be the hair that I'll leave out. But everything is moving away from the face so that I really create that sweep of light when she goes to brush her hair back. Did I answer the question?
Awesome, yeah. And do you ever use cream blonde open air?
Oh, great question. Do I ever use cream blonde open air? The answer is yes. So cream blonde was my go-to for balayage before we had Freedom Blonde. It has a great consistency. It keeps the moisture really well on the hair when you're applying. So I love cream blonde for open air and hand painting like between foils if I need a brighter end result. So yes, I definitely support and encourage cream blonde wherever you can put cream blonde in. Great questions. All right, so I just grabbed my next section. Again, working diagonal back. You can see that it's fairly big weave. Again, for a lot of brightness. And then we're going to saturate down through mid-length and ends. And really in this front section, you're looking at about like probably about 4 to 5 foils on each side. So move on to our next weave, and that's going to take us right down to the hairline, we'll have a little bit of hair left for our last foil. So again, we would do this on both sides, and with every foil as I'm moving down, I'm getting slightly closer to the scalp as I'm applying. So I go from a lot of shadow root to a minimum amount of shadow root to the least amount of shadow root down towards her face.
You're at 10 minutes.
All right, perfect. Great. How are we doing so far? Any more questions? Great.
Yeah, are you feathering to the base and leaving a shadow, or are you feathering to the base?
Great question. So even on this second to last foil, I still have a little bit of her natural still showing. So if we're trying to create a really soft, diffuse look, and again, if this is for the client that maybe her maintenance isn't the same as what it used to be, she can't come in as often anymore, I like to leave that just a little bit of like a natural root in there just because it softens as it grows out. So if your client's looking for a way lighter and brighter end result, you can go the whole way down to the scalp. Again, it's just kind of personal preference and the client that's sitting in your chair. Great questions.
Awesome. That section is from where?
Oh, this section is from the center part to right behind the ear. Let me get this foil in and I can show you that section again. So it's going to go from center part to right behind the ear, and it basically traces that first triangle section that we created.
Do you ever use the question is Ultimate Blonde, which is now Power Blonde.
Do I ever use Power Blonde? I used to be known as Ultimate Blonde. I do use it, and I do love working with it. Like I said, a lot of my clientele is on the lighter side naturally, so I find that I don't need to go to it as much. But when I do need it, it's there for me. So that is one of our, it gets up to 8 levels of lift. It lifts very quickly. So I like to, it's like when I need to call in like the reinforcements, when I need to get like the heavy duty job done, maybe they have like really thick hair or lots of like curly texture that's going to be more resistant to lift. I like Power Blonde for those clients, just personally.
Awesome. And how do you prevent slippage when clipping back the foils?
Great question. So how do you prevent slippage when clipping back the foils? For me, a lot of that depends on your size sectioning. So if you find that your foils are slipping a lot, look at how deep your sections are. So even if you're trying to get an overall brighter end result, your weave can still be wide, but your section shouldn't be deep. So back in cosmetology school, they told us that you should be able to read a newspaper article through it, and now you should read a text message through it or whatever, but you still want that section really skinny. So if it is the right depth, you should be able to move that foil back and forth without it slipping. So check the depth of your sections and make sure that those are at a width that you can, or at a depth that you can read a newspaper article through.
Awesome. One more.
Okay.
If you were to continue the freehand pattern you used on the back with Freedom Blonde, would you still use diagonal forward on the front sections?
Great question. If I was to continue to do the freehand painting towards the front, would I use diagonal forward sections? And the answer for me is yes. Again, I want that lightness to move towards the face. If they wear their hair away from their face a lot, so a lot of the times I look at my clients and what they do with their hair before I get my hands in it. So if they're constantly sweeping back and away, then I will paint the hair back and away, which means I would then go everything diagonal back. Even in the nape area, I'd switch to diagonal back. But if they're constantly doing this and pulling hair forward, then I would encourage the color to move forward. So that way you're accentuating how they wear their hair every day. So yes, in this case, I would continue to go diagonal forwards throughout the head. Great. Moving into the triangle sections, I'm going to show you 2 of the sections because they're all the same as you move up. So I'm going to take my triangle section and working towards the peak of it, I'm going to start and create a zigzag, a really deep zigzag parting into the scalp. Can you guys see that deep zigzag? So I'm going to clip this hair up and away. And I'm going to come right below that and create another zigzag. That's going to give me an uneven surface at the top and an uneven surface at the bottom, so that when I go to put that in a foil, it's not going to be close to the scalp, because again, like my parting, so you see all that hair sticking out at the top? That's okay, we want that. That's what's going to give us that really soft diffused look. So it's going to give me a soft blended end result through mid, shaft, and ends, and a little bit of a rootiness towards the interior. Again, going back to like thinking of that like child's hair, where it's lighter, brighter around the exterior and softer and deeper towards the interior.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So there's only one subsection that was left with hair in between the foils? Question mark.
Great question. So there was only one subsection that was left with hair between the foils, and that is, yes. So you would have this section, so it's back to back, left hair out, back to back, and then you would continue to work. And now I would typically leave this hair out just to create a little bit of like a veil as they pull their hair back. So I have a little bit of like dark here. So I guess two sections were left out, one being like a subsection and then one just being like a little veil to cover the rest of it. Did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. All right. So I'll show you guys this section again. Oop, let me spin her back around. So we did.
I have another one.
Okay, I'm going to keep working on this. I'm going to do this while I answer that. Go for it.
All right. Could the zigzag be done all over instead of just the interior?
Great question. Can the zigzag be done all over or just the interior? All over. This is a great all over technique. Anytime that you're really looking for a diffused base, you can use the zigzag technique. So to show you that again, I went about an inch up from where I was, did a really deep zigzag. I'm going to hold that, and now I'm going to insert my comb again and do another zigzag. And it really just confuses the base. So I've got hair from above and hair from below, and I'm going to foil that. But yeah, you can use this all over. I like using it back into like the interior of the head below the crown too, where there's a lot of like cowlicks and whorls. So we still saturate down mid-length and ends on this section, and then feather up into that base. And after I get this foil in, I'll show you the top, because I've actually used this technique on this mannequin a long time ago. So you can almost see where the lightening happened before. So if I grab this hair and I pull it together, you can see exactly where those zigzag sections were. See those brighter pieces? When you hold it together, it's more noticeable. When I let it go and actually push it back to where it lives, it's softened and it's more diffused. So you can create a lot of interior lightness with minimal amount of sections by doing the zigzags through the interior. So in this section, I did 5 foils. 5 foils on this mannequin and on this one to get all that interior light.
So Amber, can you use the zigzag part on all of the foils in the front to ensure a shadow root area?
Say that again. Can you do the zigzag on the interior part?
Can you use the zigzag part on all of the foils in the front to ensure a shadow root area?
Absolutely, yeah. So anytime that you use that zigzag, know that you're allowing more of the natural to show through. So whether it's natural or whether she had gray hair and I had to touch up her gray first, you can do the zigzag anywhere, and it's definitely going to leave you a shadow root because the section's too wide to fit completely in a foil. So that's what you're kind of looking for, is that little bit of the drag of the natural and then blending that in to create a perfect diffused line off of the natural section. Great questions. So on this one, I would do, like we talked about, the same thing here as I would in the section below that. So remember how we previously sectioned this out to behind the ear. So I'm going to do the same thing here that I would here. And then all that's left is I would continue to work up that triangle section, and it would be the same exact thing on the opposite side. So it's 3 different techniques that I can utilize all over the head to create a very soft, natural end result, but I'm working with the texture and the area of the head with the techniques. So hopefully you found that useful, and hopefully it's some things that you guys can take back into the salon and use on your clients as well.
So Amber.
Yes.
Debbie would like to know, she loves your base color. What is it?
Oh, like my base color?
Yeah.
My base color is the new quarantine dark brown. So that's a great question, Debbie. What is my base color? This is natural. So I'm in need. I am in need. And I even held off for you guys. I didn't want to, if we're preaching to our clients to not color their hair, I wasn't going to stand here and freshly color mine. So this is natural. So it's a dark brown.
It's Amber's mom and dad shade.
What?
It's Amber's mom and dad shade.
Yes, it's Amber's mom and dad shade. Yeah, it's God-given right here. Yep, this is. But my ends have been toned today with Silver Savior. So that is one of the products that I do want to talk about before we have to go. And after any lightening service, we do recommend after color shampoo and after color balsam to follow out your salon services when there's color involved. So after color shampoo, we recommend you do 2 times after a lightening service, and then followed by an after color balsam. Now, if you're gonna do a toner, we would recommend do 2 after color shampoos, toner, and then follow up again with your after color program. And that really just helps seal everything in, closes down the cuticle, brings the hair back down to a natural pH, so that it really helps set everything in place for your client to leave. And then for me, some of my favorite, and for a lot of your clients right now that want to feel like salon fresh and they just had a toner, Silver Savior shampoo and Silver Savior conditioner have been my miracle, and my this is how I keep my hair looking as cool as what it is. They're both violet base, so they're going to neutralize warm, brighten blonde, and brighten gray hair, as well as nourish it and condition it. So this will leave your hair feeling extra moisturized and really soft. So again, for some of your clients, if you guys are still open and selling products and delivering them, Silver Savior shampoo for your blondes right now or your gray hair clients will make them feel like they just had their hair color done again. So that's a great one to check out as well. So we started with consultation, went into technique and product, and then followed up with some of our after color in-salon support and at-home support. Hopefully you guys were able to get a lot of great ideas and techniques and verbiage out of today's program. If you're interested in more, we can always do a blonde breakdown part 2 where we could share more. But Jess, what do we got? Is there any other questions right now?
No, but let them know that you're coming back April 16th.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I'll be back April 16th, next Thursday. If there's things that you guys want to see, put them in the comments. So if it's more blonding or color, you name it, you guys put them in the comments, and we'll make sure that we build that into either next week's program or a program in the future. But is there anything else that you want to see with haircuts and styling? Again, continue to keep those comments coming in. That's how we plan our schedules. This is all for you. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I apologize again about our 1 p.m. Live fail, but I feel like 4 p.m. might have been the sweet spot. So tune in tomorrow. We'll have Dallin here with he'll be doing styling and finish it. So we've got a lot of great things in store for you guys for the rest of the week. Again, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure. Thank you for giving me a reason to get done up today and make me feel like I'm leaving my house. And I hope to see you all again really soon. Thank you so much.
Did you stop it?